Hi, welcome to the Stressed Knits podcast. I am Stacy, also known as Stacy Elston on Instagram and Stressed Knits on Ravelry, though I haven't really been active on Ravelry in like a year. This is a knitting, hand dyeing podcast, and it's been a while because if you can't hear her, I just had a baby. So for all of you who have been with me through all of this, thank you for coming back. And for those of you who are new, hi. This might be a little weird. I don't have show notes. I just decided to do this on the fly. Doug is, my husband, is downtown in Detroit. He is doing photo, video for the music festival that's going on right now. And she's sleeping pretty well right now, so we'll see how it goes. And I put Esther away so that she doesn't jump on her. Esther is my pug puppy. Eliza is my daughter, who is sleeping in her dock-a-tot on the couch, and I can see her and hear her, so she has hiccups. So it might be a little choppy, but I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible. I'm gonna try to keep the baby talk to the end, but it's been crazy. She's 6 weeks, almost 7 weeks old. So with that, today is July 29th, 2018. This is episode 63, maybe 60, I don't know. This is a mess behind me because this used to be my office. It is now the nursery, so we had to move Stressed Knits headquarters to right here. These are packages that have to go out, what we shoot pictures on now, which is super exciting. Doug's workstation, because he's been working from home for the past month and a half. I have a lot to show you, which is why I wanted to get this out, because I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on first. I will do a longer explanation at the end, but while I put some stuff on some blockers, because I have a ton of stuff to show you. So, long story short, I was 32 weeks pregnant. My water broke and went to the hospital. They essentially told me I was having the baby that day. They were wrong. They transferred me to a hospital with a NICU because they figured since she was breached, I was gonna have to have a C-section. I mean, I was 32 weeks. Of course, she hasn't flipped yet. It's not crazy. Sorry. But so they transferred me to a really good hospital in Ann Arbor, and I live in Michigan, in case you didn't know that. So they transferred me to a really good hospital in Ann Arbor, where they told me my water broke. Well, they actually weren't sure. Long story. They weren't sure that if my water broke or not, but they wanted to keep me just in case my water broke, because it could be really bad if my water broke and I wasn't in the hospital, and I would have to come back to Ann Arbor, which is about a 30-minute drive from where we live in Metro Detroit. So I was in the hospital 2 weeks before my daughter was born. Emergency C-section. She went to the NICU. 2 days after I was discharged, I had an infection with my C-section, got readmitted, put on a wound vac, which if you don't know what that is, look it up, it's awful. I was on that for a little over a month. We got discharged together, which was really nice. I got discharged before her, so Doug and I went out for a little bit of lunch and a drink just to kind of relax and have a little moment before our lives changed forever, which, I mean, they already did, but we weren't home. So when we came home, it's been crazy. I was on the wound vac for, like I said, like a month, a little over that. So Doug stayed home because I had really painful changes and changing of the wound vac, and it was really hard for me to get around. I was still really tired. I was on a lot of pain medication for the wound. But now everything's good. Eliza is perfect. She's healthy. She's growing. She's 5 pounds, which is crazy. She was 3'1" when she was born. She was really tiny. She was 6 weeks early. but we're doing great and everything's wonderful. But I had so much time in the hospital between being there 2 weeks early and having nothing to do. Her NICU stay, we were in a nesting room, but I'm not able to breastfeed her because she was so tiny. It was too tiring for her to get anything, so we did bottle feeding, and so I have to pump, and so that's a half an hour plus at a time, multiple times a day, like 6 times a day. So it's just a lot of time on my hands, which is great because I have something to do, which I don't know what moms do who don't knit. I guess they read, maybe, watch TV. I watch TV and knit. I've gotten really into Grey's Anatomy. Okay, so anyway, that's the condensed version. I will get into it maybe at the end, but that being said, I did a lot of knitting in the hospital, so I will go over hospital knitting first. So I finished 2 pairs of socks that have been languishing for, well, kind of languishing for a while. So this is my Sweet Stress Folk Hermione's Everyday sock. This is my hand-dyed yarn in the Sweet Stress Folk colorway, which I dyed for, I made a mistake here, didn't I? Or maybe that's just where it was folded. I don't know. I don't block socks. I made this for me and my friends Jacqueline and Julie of Brooklyn Knit Folk and Sweet Sparrow, respectively, which Julie started podcasting again, and it makes my heart so happy because I get to spend time with her. Yeah, so this is the colorway for us because we all have pretty distinctive color tastes, but we also all like each other's colors. So Julie is the blush, I am the mint, and Jacqueline is the chartreuse. And it works together really well, and it makes me happy. It makes me sad that I don't get to see them for a while, but I don't know. I don't get to go to Rhinebeck this year because my best friend is getting married on the Saturday of Rhinebeck, which bums me out that I'm not going, but I'm so excited for her, and I'm so excited to be in her wedding. So it's okay. Maybe next year. Yeah, so this is Hermione's Everyday sock. I want to say Erica Luder. But I do have 2. This is what it looks like in the stockinette. It's one of my favorite colorways that I dye at the moment. So that is finished sock pair number 1. And it's funny because there's only 1 pair of socks in my box of socks that has been in 2018. Everything else I started in 2017. But I don't know, just my sock knitting mojo just kind of tanked when I got pregnant, which is fine. Okay, the second sock is a Junkyard Sock, and this is Kemper Junkyard, her sock blank. She did some of her OG colorways in sock blanks, and this is Sylvia, and if you know anything about me, you know Sylvia Plath. It's my favorite author. Bell Jar is my favorite book, and so I had to get this. I didn't have to, but I wanted to get this because it's fun. And my Sylvia socks it was her very first update that I got it. I was so excited. They're one of my most worn pairs of socks, so I had to knit my sock blanks, which I really love how these turned out. Here is number 2. So I finished these in the hospital as well. So that was a lot of fun. And then, so I started, last podcast I showed you that I started designing a shawl. And it's being tested right now. I'm hoping to get it out end of August, early September. But new mom life, we only have 1 car. I can't really just go to a coffee shop and just type everything out. Doug's formatting it for me. It's great. I'm super excited, but I do have the size in the large version. I finished the small version before my water broke. I finished the large version. Did we come home at that point? We might have been home at that point when I finished it, but I did the majority of this knit in the hospital. So I'm gonna actually stand up and show, I might be able to scoot back and show you the small one. So here's the small one. I'm actually not keeping this. It is a gift for a friend. So here's the small version. I love it. It is faded or color blocked. When I was designing this, I didn't have enough yarn. This small is a 2 skein size, and I didn't have enough yarn, so I just grabbed leftovers from projects and knitted it in. So this is all of my hand-dyed yarn. This is Sweet Disposition, into Bell Jar, into I Smell Snow, which are like my OG popular colorways. And it's just a really, I love it. I think it's a perfect size. It's called Intuition. I love it. So I haven't woven in the ends or blocked either of these yet. But yeah. Small version, and then the large version I'm going to stand up and show you. Don't mind me. Okay, so this is, oops. This is the large version, and to give you a reference, I'm 5'2". So there's the large version. And I knit this one out of my hand-dyed yarn as well. Both of these are knit on my squishy base, which is my merino cashmere nylon 80-10-10 respectively. And this is in my favorite neutral that I just started dyeing, which is called Milk Bath. So it's mostly like a cream. It has hints of like this milky blue and milky pink in it. So the whole purpose of this was I was kind of in my nesting stage, and I just wanted a knit that I could knit at the hospital and while I was in labor. So I just wanted something simple. So it's just garter and eyelets and an I-cord. That's it. So it's super easy. Comes in 2 sizes. This is 3 full skeins. I had about 10 grams left when I bound off. So it's crazy. But the thing that I love about giant shawls like this is I fold them up like that, then I just wrap it around, and it's just this cozy, squishy thing, and I love it so much. I'm going to live in this in the fall and winter. So that is Intuition. Again, it's coming out yeah, late August, early September. And it's just a really, the reason it's called Intuition is because one, like, mother's intuition, and it's very intuitive. And the best part about it is even if you get off on stitch count, it doesn't matter because it's so big and there's no intricate design to it, that if you get off, don't stress out about it, it's fine. So that's what I love about this. My test knitters are amazing. Yeah, cannot wait to share that with you guys. And then on a whim, I designed another shawl. I wanted something really graphic. I wanted to knit some brioche, but I wasn't in the mindset of knitting somebody else's design. So I had my husband, this was before Eliza got here. I knit this shawl in maybe 4 days. Again, I had nothing else to do. I wasn't allowed to walk around. I wasn't allowed to go outside unless somebody was with me. I wasn't on bed rest, but I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. So I had nothing to do except for watch Netflix and knit, which I was fine with. So I had to grab 2 skeins of my Pillow-Mint colorway and a skein of my Etchings colorway on my squishy base because I just wanted something comforting. And I just cast on and knit and wrote down what I did, and I have a shawl. So super easy. So again, it's all garter because I did not feel like purling, and I love garter stitch in shawls. It's so warm. I'm not going to stand up for this one. I will just scoot back. So yeah, it has a center spine, nice easy striping sequence, and a huge brioche border, which is my favorite part. And So I love the rounded triangle. I think it's super easy to wear. This with a coat over it in the winter and fall, it's gonna be so cozy and warm. I don't have this written up yet, so I don't have any, I'll put a call out for testers when I do have it written up. Sometime this week or next week, I'm going to grab my computer and just head to a coffee shop when Doug's home from work, because he's going back to work Tuesday. And yeah, so I will write this down and put a call out. So if you're interested, it is 2 of the main color, 1 of the contrasting color. I love it. So yeah, that is, I think I'm calling it Laborer, because I was in labor when I designed it. Which is the weird part about your water breaking, is you're technically in labor, you're just not in active labor. So I was in labor for 2 weeks before I was in active labor. Yeah. Okay, so then I cast on a socket hat. This is actually when she was in the NICU, but it's on top, so I'm gonna show it to you first. This is in my lipstick and shawls colorway, which is inspired by Andrea Mowry and her What the Fade colors. So, it's called Lipstick and Shawls because in an interview she did, somebody was asking her about her logo, which has like the bangs, the lipstick, and the shawl. And it's because her sister, maybe, somebody told her that whenever she sees them, she sees her, all she sees is lipstick and a shawl. So that's why her logo is what it is. So that is why I named it that. Yeah, so it's just a very creamy background with greens and yellows and poppy reds and blues. I don't know, I really love it. It was a very simple, easy knit while I was in the NICU with Eliza. So that was nice to have. And then I decided one more thing because I'm weird and crazy. Apparently, 2 days before my induction, I really wanted to knit Eliza something, but I didn't have enough for a sweater. Doug wasn't going back to our apartment until I gave birth, so I was like, what can I knit? So I was like, I'll knit a hat. So I wanted something textured. I didn't know what I wanted. So I was looking at stitches online, and I remembered how much I love the linen stitch. So I designed a hat that's 2 colors with the linen stitch because it looks, I love the way it looks. So this is hers. This fit her perfectly at 34 weeks. So it is a preemie size. So that's super cute. And then I knit a newborn size. And this fits her right now. So this is knit out of Stress Knits in the Etchings colorway and the Sweet Stress Folk colorway. This literally took like 8 grams of yarn. This is out of Quince & Company. I don't know why that weird blip is showing like that. It doesn't look like that in real life, but this is Quince & Company Finch in Honey and Petal. Then I knit adult sizes. So this is the adult small, and it is Quince & Company Finch in Odwin, which is my favorite color from them, and Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in Verba Volant, which is the yarn that I bought while I was in active labor, because I had a long labor, y'all, before the emergency C-section. So yeah, so I bought that because I've loved Spin Cycle forever, but I just never knew how to use it, and I thought this would be the perfect pattern. So it's stretchy and wonderful. I'd put it on, but my hair's up and I just don't want to take it down. So there's the adult small, which it's kind of tight on my head for how I like hats, but I think it'd be really great for like a teenager or somebody that likes tighter hats. And then the adult large, which is perfect for me. I knit a longer brim, and this is Quince & Company Odwin again, and Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in Melancholia. So yeah, those are the hats. So that will also be coming to you soon. So the whole purpose of this, there's one more size, I think, and it's 1 or 2 more sizes. I have all the math, I just don't know if I want to knit 2 more because I've already knit 4. But yeah, so the whole purpose is preemie to adult. That's all it is. There is a seam on the back just because of how you're switching yarns, but you put it in the back and it's fine. So there is that, and that is called the intersection hat. Okay. So that's everything I finished in the hospital, or started in the hospital. I also finished another pair of socks. I was like, what else did I finish? I've had these on the needles since this time last year, but they made, just really didn't want to knit on them because this time last year I had my miscarriage, so I just wasn't in the mood to look at any of the socks that I started or knit on then. But now that I'm kind of past that, not really past that, but now that I have a baby and I just want to kind of clear everything off the needles, I decided to pick those socks up and knit on them. So I finished these. I do have 2, just so you're aware. This is Legacy Fiber Arts on their Cozy Toes base in the Oogie Boogie colorway, which was from Halloween last year. They did the Nightmare Before Christmas, and this is their Oogie Boogie colorway, which is my favorite from the collection. And then I just dyed up a contrasting heel in like a ballet pink. So yeah, I really love it. It's just my normal stockinette sock, which is 2x2 ribbing, 64 stitches. As long as I want heel flap and gusset. I have a size 5.5, 6 foot. So there's that. And then I also finished one sock of Doug's, which is also Legacy Fiber Arts Cozy Toes, in the Will You Be Mine, which is from 2 years ago, which they released for Valentine's Day. But Sue gifted me this at Vogue Knitting Live in 2017, and Doug claimed it, and since we were on our honeymoon, I gave it to him. So it's huge. He likes really long legs. He likes long legs. He wishes these were longer, but I don't have enough yarn for that. And then he has a size 10.5 foot heel flap and gusset. Yeah, so there's that. And then I did cast on, but just barely. I knit his on a US 1.5 so that I can get it stretchy enough for him. But yeah, that's it for finished objects and half finished objects. I am knitting on a bit. I do have one thing that I can't show you. It is a super secret test knit, which I am over the moon about. Yeah, I'm about 1/3 or 1/4 of the way done. I love it. It's a sweater knit. I think that's all I can really tell you, but once I'm going to show you the yarn because it's stash enhancement, and I think you'll be able to figure it out. But this is my main color. This is Shepherd's Wool worsted in the Sandcastle colorway, or Beaches. It's one of those. It's just a very gray taupe color, which I really like. And then my contrast colors are, they're all Spin Cycle and Dream State. This is Salty Dog, Deep Bump, and Melancholia. So this is my sweater, and I love it. So yeah, I can't wait to share that with you end of August. So super fun. My foot is asleep and it's hurting real bad. So I'm gonna take a sip of coffee and breathe for a second. Sitting on the ground is really hard, but it's really the only place that I can be right now where Esther can't see me, so she won't bark, and Eliza, I can see her, but I'm not too loud. Okay, so works in progress. I have a few. The first thing I will show you is my Harlow Hat by Andrea Mowry, because I watched the Brooklyn Knit Folk Sweet Sparrow crossover, which made me so happy to see my two friends and hang out with them via podcast. And they're throwing out the idea of doing a year of Melody Hoffman, who's B Mandarins, doing a year of her patterns. And I was like, oh, I love Melody's patterns. I could totally do that too. And I was like, you know what? I love Andrea Mowry. I could totally do a year of her patterns. So I'm doing a year of her patterns. And so the year of Andrea started in July for me, so I will finish in July next year. So my goal is to cast on one pattern a month for her, so I decided to do something nice and simple, and I don't have to finish it in a month, but as long as I cast it on in a month. So yeah, so I decided to do the Harlow Hat, and so this is Quince & Company Odwin, once again, because it's my favorite, and then Spin Cycle Dyed in the Wool in Deep Bump. Yeah, so I'm still knitting the brim. I have about another inch to go before I can switch to my larger needles, but it's 2-color brioche in the round. That is the wrong side. This is the right side, and it's going really fast. So yeah, that is living in my fringe field bag, my gray one. So that is project number 1. Project number 2. I was inspired by Chelsea of Legacy Fiber Arts, and she's making a blanket for her daughter Lily out of all of Legacy Fiber Arts yarns, which is amazing. I was like, you know what, I can totally do that too. So I pulled out all of my leftovers. I started a blanket for Eliza. So here it is. I'm just gonna go through colors real fast. This is Pillow Mint, Unaware, Birch. I don't have a colorway name for this one yet because I can't, I'm trying to duplicate it. And then this is my first draft of Succulents. This is Powder. This is from my Favorite Murder Club. I don't remember. I think it's called It Gets Worse, but I'm not sure. Solstice, Lipstick and Shawls, Triflers Need Not Apply, Bell Jar, Encouragement, Sweet Stress Folk, and Eliza. So yeah, so this is going to be a long-term project. I'm in no rush to finish it, but I just love it. As long as my goal is to knit at least 1 square per week, and I am fine because she's not even 7 weeks, and I have 4, 8, 12, 15 squares, so I'm doing great. Here's that. That is living in a bag I got when I purchased a tote bag from Pearl Soho. And then the last thing that I'm working on in this field bag, which my amazing husband got me as a you gave birth present, super nice, is my Sunset Highway, which I just kind of cast on a whim. So I haven't worked on this because of my other sweater that I'm knitting, my test knit, but here it is. Oh, I love it so much. I forget what size I'm knitting. It might be the large. I think it's the large. Yeah, so the colors are the entire top is Stress Knits yarn. So this is my Etchings colorway, this is Birch, and this is Pillow Mint. And then the main body is Primrose Yarn Company and Dior, which I got at Vogue Knitting Live. This is her Adelaide singles base, and all of this is on a singles base except for Birch, which is on my soft base, or smooth, I forget what I call it. I think it's my smooth base which is a 75% superwash, 25% nylon. Yeah, so this is it. So I'm just working down the body. And yeah, I love it. This is by Caitlin Hunter of Boylan Knitworks. And I finally drank the Kool-Aid. I dyed up yarn for my Tecumseh, which I left in her nursery to dry. So I'll show you that next time. And I will cast that on once I finish my test knit. But yes, I love, 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 love this sweater. Yeah, it's my real first time doing color work. And I was really nervous about the puckering, but I wet blocked the top. I just dunked this in by the needles, held it there for a few minutes, took it out, and just, there's still some puckering, but it's not as bad as it was. So I'm actually really, really happy with this. If you want to see my floats, they're awful. They're my floats. Yeah, but I'm super excited for this. Yeah, so that is my last work in progress. I'm trying to speed through this so that Eliza stays asleep. Drinking iced coffee as per usual. Okay, so shop update. I don't think I've podcasted since I launched my website. So Stress Knits is no longer on Etsy. It is on stressknits.com, which is really exciting. Doug built my website, and then 2 days later I went to labor. It's fine. Yeah, so I have a bunch of new colorways. I have 2 new bases. I'm rearranging stuff right now so that's easier for my brain. But I'm super excited about it. My goal is to be able to help with bills while I, sorry, Doug just texted me something funny. While I stay home with my daughter, because I had to quit my job in January because I got kicked in the stomach, and there's a pretty big possibility that caused a lot of my issues during pregnancy, and it was a really rough pregnancy. If you want the whole story, jump a few episodes back. I think it's called Life Happens or something like that, or Real Life. So I got kicked in the stomach, and I already had a high-risk pregnancy because I had a 2nd trimester loss last summer, so my doctor told me I needed to quit my job because I worked with kids with autism and it was very unpredictable. So it is what it is. It makes me really sad because I loved that job, but it's just not, I wasn't making enough to make sense of going back to work and putting her in daycare, because I would have just been paying to put her in daycare. So we went down to 1 car. I'm staying at home, and I am hoping that that people like my yarn still. It is what it is. So I really love everything that I put out, and that way if nobody buys it, I can knit with it. Because yarn is expensive, and being a family of 3 now, I have to be much more careful about what I buy, which is really hard because there's so many amazing yarn dyers out there that I want to support, and I can't do it. So I can't buy all the yarn that I want to. I do have some Tits Out Collective in the mail. I should have the one from Vivid Monday or Tuesday, and then I also purchased the one from Altered Stitch, so Stitch Together Studios. And so both of those should be in my possession soon, which I'm really excited about because the Tits Out Collective was amazing. And I was kind of upset that with everything going on, I wasn't able to participate. But that's okay, so I supported other dyers that I really love, and I've never knit with either of their yarns. So we will, yeah, was it Vivid? No, it was Yarn Ink. It was Yarn Ink. Okay, so anyways, I have stressknits.com now, and that is my goal, is to I don't want to make it into like an empire at the moment. My goal is to just be able to help with bills and buy some yarn. That's really all I want out of this. So I make colorways that I really love just in case, so I can knit with it. That's all it is. But I just wanted to show you what's in the shop because I had a surprise shop update. I did a bunch of yarn dyeing when I got home from the hospital because it made me feel like a person. So I haven't been feeling like a person lately. It was really hard, which I'll talk about in a second, but yeah, so I'll start with the two new bases. So I have a sport weight, which is this is Eliza. It is a very plump 3-ply, and it's so springy and squishy. So I have other colors in the shop too, but I just wanted to show you some of them. So this is Eliza, Lavender Honey. This is a new colorway called Dreamer. I love it. And Sweet Stress Folk. So this would be perfect for if you're collecting yarns from your favorite indie dyers to do a rose cardigan, or if you have some squishy socks, or you want to do some shawls. Like, this is such a great base for all of that. Yeah, so that is my sport weight. And then I also have a DK weight, but I only have one skein left. And this is a new colorway called Sea Monster. And it's just this gorgeous like tealy green blue color, and it has these speckles of, there's like this dark magenta and some dark greens and some yellows, and I really love it. It's coming out a little more emerald than it is in real life. Maybe if no, okay. But yeah, it's not this emerald. It's much more of a tealy color. It's much more blue than it is green, if that makes sense. Okay, so DK, it's 100, both my Sport and DK are 100% superwash merino. My DK is 115 grams, so it's 250 yards. So it's a lot of bang for your buck. I really love it. It would be a good hat. It's a great base for sweaters. It's what I'm knitting my Tecumseh out of. Yeah, so there's that. I have some singles in the shop. This is Eliza as well. There's a lot of Eliza in the shop because I was just so happy to have her home that I just wanted to make all of her yarn. This is a much better representation of what it looks like. So this is my singles base, 100% superwash merino. This is a new colorway called Succulents. I will open it because it's more fun that way. So it just has, it's this beautiful, excuse me, there's just fluff flying. It's this beautiful, really light minty green with just these deep, deep green speckles, and it has places where the dye breaks, and so you get some blues and you get some pinks and some yellows, and I really love it. And then I also have some squishy in the shop, which is one of my favorite bases. It's my merino nylon cashmere, and I have Sweet Disposition, which I love, and then I have Pillow Mint and Succulents and Encouragement and Sea Vegetable. Actually, Sea Vegetable is on singles. I do have it on squishy. So those are all in the shop. And then I have two on sparkle, so Milk Bath, which is what my Intuition shawl is knit out of, and Lipstick and Shawls, which is what my, where'd you go? I just threw everything. There it is. Which is what this is. This is Lipstick and Shawls, but this is sparkle. And then I have some on Favorite. I have two skeins of Sweet Disposition on Favorite. And then I have some stuff on sale. So I try to do some like more summery colors, but they just aren't my thing. So they are on sale. This is Sunny Disposition and Nectar, which is this orange with a bunch of really beautiful orange peachy speckles. So yeah, that is what is in the shop, so please check it out. Yeah. that's all I have to say about that. And I have also started writing a blog post, or a blog. I'm going to try to update it as much as possible, but again, I have a newborn, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so I did a blog post about mental health and knitting, and at the end there is a coupon code, which is not alone, for 15% off, which is inspired by Kemper Ray of Junkyard. She's doing a Not Alone Knit Along, which is a way of gifting your friends who are struggling with things something knitty and wonderful, just to show them that they're not alone. It's a really beautiful thing. So I shared my story, my history with anxiety, depression, all that jazz, and some of my birth story and my miscarriage story. So it's just, if you're interested in that, I'll link it below. But if not, I'm going to get into what happened, and it's gonna be, it won't be too long. Yeah, so I was at my parents' house because our air conditioning was broken. So Doug and I spent 2 nights at his parents' house, and then we came back here, and I was packaging up orders from the launch of my website, and I ended up spending the night at my parents' house, just me, because our air was still off, and yeah, it was almost 90 in our apartment, but Doug was fine. He had a bunch of work he had to do. So he told me to just go to my parents' house and spend the night because I was pregnant. I was very pregnant, 32 weeks, and that he would be there when the maintenance guy came to fix our air conditioning and all that jazz. So my dad was cooking breakfast, and all of a sudden it felt like I peed my pants, but my water broke because it was, yeah, it wasn't good. So we went to our hospital where we were gonna give birth, but it happened on a Wednesday, and my OB office is closed, so we couldn't go there, so we had to go to the hospital. And they don't have a NICU at my hospital, and so if anything happens before 36 weeks, they have to transfer you to a different hospital in Ann Arbor where there is a NICU, because if I would have had my C-section at the hospital that I was going to deliver at, and I say C-section because that's what I ended up having, but if I ended up giving birth at the hospital where we were going to have the baby would have been taken to the NICU in Ann Arbor, and I would have had to stay 30 minutes away from them, and so Doug would have had to be going back and forth. It would just have been awful. I wouldn't have been able to hold my baby. It would have been the worst. So I take an ambulance ride to St. Joe's in Ann Arbor, and they admit me. They have me in a laboring room just in case. They have me on observation for 3 days. They give me steroid shots so it helps with her lung growth. And I had a bunch of pelvic exams that night and the next day and the next day to see if my water had broken. They couldn't figure it out. So they kept me in antepartum, which is where they put people who have PPROM, like me, which is premature rupture of membranes. So either that or preeclampsia, just bed rest, stuff like that, before you give birth. So they told me I would be there for 2 weeks. I was there for exactly 2 weeks. I was under very heavy monitoring. I was on the belly bands twice a day. Since I threw up my glucose test and I didn't get a chance to retake it, they were checking my blood sugar after every meal with a little prick, which is annoying because I was not, turns out I was not gestational diabetic, but it's fine. I still got poked every day, and it's fine, I'm not mad about it. They almost made me retake the sugar test. I was like, I'm gonna throw up again, so let's not do that. I'm already in a lot of distress. So they did that. Yeah, and then, so they told me I was gonna have a C-section because she was breech. And then 2 or 3 days before my C-section, they go, oh, she flipped. I was like, okay. They're like, yeah, so we will do Pitocin and we will induce you. It's like, okay. They're like, yeah, so this is a Foley balloon, and like they gave me like this whole thing, and I was like, okay. So I went from knowing I was gonna have a vaginal birth to being told I was gonna need a C-section to being told I was having a vaginal birth again. So I was just kind of discombobulated and super stressful, because I was also giving birth to a premature baby, and they were preparing me for her being on breathing and feeding tubes and all of the stuff going into her with like the IV and a PICC line, and the possibility of her surviving versus not, and the possibility of me surviving versus not, and like they're talking to me about all of this. So we finally get to our induction day, which was the 13th of June, and we were induced, well, fun fact, my sister Eliza, not the oldest, the second oldest, that was the hospital she was giving birth at, and she gave birth to my nephew, Samuel, on the 12th. So I got to meet him and hold him before I got induced, which was really cool, because I just had to walk down the hall. I was there for her induction. I was there right after she gave birth. It was really cool. So the 13th at 3 in the morning, they moved me to my new labor room from antepartum to labor. So I did not sleep well the night before because I was really nervous about the whole Foley balloon thing, which is really weird. They like put this thing into your cervix and expand it, and then once your cervix dilates enough, it comes out. But because of how long I'd been ruptured, they were worried about infection. So they decided not to do that and just did Pitocin. So I was on Pitocin for a while, and then so like Doug's in there with me and we're hanging out, and I can't eat anything and I'm really cranky about it because I'm starving, though the nurses did let me eat a granola bar before they put me on Pitocin, which was really nice. So we're doing all the stuff. I was, you know, doing the broth and water and cranberry juice and all of that stuff, and Eliza kept coming off the monitor. So they decided they wanted to put a probe on top of her head, and so they did that procedure, which was very painful for me. Still no epidural yet, and I was only dilated less than, I was like a centimeter when they did it, so it hurt real bad. And so they did that, and everything was great, you know, kept having to go to the bathroom because I was on IVs and all that jazz. And then they couldn't keep, my contractions weren't tracking correctly. So they went back in and put another probe on the inside of my uterus for the contractions. Okay. And they kept having to take me off Pitocin because they kept losing her heartbeat, and she wasn't handling it very well. And yeah, so we do this for hours. It's a lot of, okay, we're gonna take you off Pitocin for an hour. Okay, you've been off for 2 hours, let's put you back on. Okay, let's take you off, let's put you back on, let's take you off. So it kept happening. And so Doug and I actually slept pretty well until I was dilated to a 4, and my contractions were just coming, and they were coming hard and fast. Not a lot of breaks in between. You know, I'd have 30 seconds to a minute, but I was only 4 centimeters, so it wasn't like I was ready to push. So I asked for the epidural because I was like, I can't do this for much longer. So got the epidural. That worked great. Highly recommend. It was really good for me. I understand that's not really good for everybody, but it helped me sleep because I was just uncontrollably crying. It was not the worst pain I felt in this whole experience, but it was very, very painful. So man, yeah, it was just great. Again, I totally get it if you want an unmedicated birth. Fully support that. It just wasn't for me. So do that, and then a few hours later, Doug and I are sleeping, and my doctor comes in and she goes, okay, Eliza is having a lot of trouble staying on the monitor even though it's on her head, so that means her heart's stopping during contractions. We are going to take her out. We're going to give you a C-section. And I was like, okay, they're like, actually, before we do that, let's check you again. And I was still out of 4, and it had been like 10 hours of me out of 4. Fun fact, I was in labor for 28 hours before my C-section. It's fine. So, once they saw I was out of 4, they're like, yeah, because they're like, if you're far along, then we might up the Pitocin so that you dilate faster and we can push. But that wasn't an option, because I was still out of 4. So, they go, okay, we're gonna have a baby in 30 minutes. And I was like, oh, so we have like a half an hour before we do the C-section. Like, no, we're going now. I was like, okay. So Doug and I call our parents. It's 6 in the morning. We're like, it was like 5:30 in the morning. 5:30, 5:45 on the 14th. And so we're calling, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna meet your baby in like 30 minutes. We're like, okay. So then they're like changing me. They gave Doug the suit to put on so he could come into the OR, and it was crazy. They gave me this thing to take for anti-nausea, which made me throw up, and I threw up all over myself because I had an epidural. I had no control over my body, and they were pushing it harder because I was about to be cut open. But get to the OR, and the Ava Brothers was playing in the OR, so that was really cool because I love the Ava Brothers. So that was really relaxing, and my doctors were amazing. A nurse that I was with for 4 days in my antepartum 2-week stay, I asked her to come in, which was really nice. So I had her with me, and my doctor was great, and they had another doctor come in to assist her, and he was great, and it was just a really great experience. For how scary it was being told that like she wasn't breathing, that we needed to get her out now, it turned out really well. And then she came out, she cried, Doug and I cried, and I told him to go. I was like, go with her. So before they left, they let me see her. I wasn't allowed to hold her because she needed to go to the NICU. So that was really hard. And then I went to recovery, and I wasn't allowed to hold her for 2.5 hours. And that killed me. So once we get to the mama baby room, even though I didn't get to have my baby with me, yeah, we went down to the NICU all the time, which was really great. The NICU nurses and doctors were just a godsend. They were amazing. She had an infection. She had E. coli, which happens. It was the perfect storm, is essentially what they told me. My water breaking 2 weeks early, or 2 weeks before she was born. So I was broken for 2 weeks, which really opens you up for infection anyway, plus the long labor. So she had E. coli, and it was a really, really bad strain. They essentially told us she shouldn't have survived, which is really scary. She's starting to get hungry. Yeah, she has to eat soon, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Yeah, so they essentially told us she shouldn't survive, but she kicked it in 2 days, which was, it was amazing. And yeah, it was really hard, but you know, she did the light therapy for jaundice, which she was fine with after a few days, and just watching her progress, which was really cool, watching her grow. And then she was out of the incubator, and then her feeding tube came out, and like being able to hold her longer, it was amazing. And then I was discharged, and Doug and I came back to the apartment, and we like hung out a little bit, and then we went back because they had a nesting room for us, which is essentially just a hospital room where nobody bothers you, and that way we could be at the hospital and go see her, since we lived kind of far away. So we were there for a while, and then I was on the phone with my dad. My dad's a common theme in this, but I was on the phone with my dad, and my pants got wet again. And so I hung out with him because I was pumping, and then I went into the bathroom and noticed it was wetter on my stomach. So I like pulled my pants down, and I took one of the white washcloths, and I was like dabbing it around. And it was a pink, like, pussy thing, and it smelled. And I was like, that's not good. So I went, and my sister and her husband and their new baby was there to see Eliza, and were there, not was. they were there, and I told Doug what was happening, but we weren't patients in the hospital, and we were given very strict instructions by the social worker to not contact any nurses, not ask any questions, like leave them alone, you're not a patient, do not talk to them or you could get kicked out. And we were like, so we called the hospital, we were like, hi, this is our situation, what do we do? And they're like, go back to labor and delivery and see what's up, because it sounds like an infection. So we did. And they looked at me and they were like, we have to open you back up. I said, okay, so you're like putting me under, am I getting another like spinal, like what's happening? They're like, no, we're just gonna give you some morphine and just open you back up. And I was like, okay. But they didn't give me a lot of morphine. They gave me 2 cc's of morphine, which for me is, we found out, is nothing. I have a very high pain tolerance, and apparently I have a very high medication tolerance too, because throughout this entire process, this like week that I was there, they found out my magic number for morphine where I don't feel as much pain as 10. So I was only at a 2, and they pulled my stitches, opened me up, took the infection out, admitted me, was there, spent the night pushing antibiotics into my body, and then she's stirring, it's fine. And then they decided to open me up fully. So that happened again. They gave me just a little bit of morphine, not my normal amount. I'm just gonna grab it real quick. Oh, you're doing so good. Okay. And then, this is Eliza. And then, so they opened me back up. Hi. And, and then they decided I needed a wound vac. So essentially, it's this really thick foam. They stuff it into you, they seal it up, and they put this like vacuum on it. It's negative pressure wound healing. So it heals it, heals it so much faster. And so that is the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Stuffing really thick foam, if you think of like the steel wool kind of texture, oh yeah, stuffing that into an open wound and stuffing it into the corners of that wound with no pain medication. That is the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. Oh, I know, it was awful, wasn't it? Yeah, it was awful. And then they did that every few days in the hospital, and then once I was discharged, they had a home care nurse come and change me every other day. So, okay, so I'm gonna cut that right here. I'm gonna go feed her. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.